I'm blessed with having been given, I guess, the vision to continue pushing, on that particular door. For years, I didn't know which way it was hinged, and I kept pushing on it. And it's as I got older, then I've come to the conclusion it's hinged the other way, and pushing doesn't open it. Giving up does. Giving up all of the stuff that we want. All of the stuff that we want. Give that up. Talking about my painting is like making up stories, or it really has nothing to do with the act itself. As soon as the thing goes into language mode, it's different neurons are fired in the brain, and the mind then starts inventing and often lying. The things are just what they are. People give them value in accordance with their own being. It's taken me many, many years to develop the concentration, I guess, the attention, to be able to totally lose myself in a painting. So if the musical composition has some really raw, bad stuff in it, then I take responsibility for that. But if something comes through that's creatively unique, then as the Japanese say, muga, it is not I who do this. It's the larger self of which we all are composed. Not much I can say, really. The only language that I trust anymore is the language of the brush. some of the qualities that make calligraphy brush work pleasing to my eye are the qualities of opposition, of playing the wet against the dry, the thick against the thin, the round against the square, the fast against the slow, the sharp against the blunt. All of the oppositions of energy flow, which please my eye. This is a cedar brush made out of cedar bark. Very old technology in the workshops that I'd held started with making a cedar brush in order to get away from the idea of just going into a store, picking up a brush, buying it, and using it without really getting into the tool in an intimate way. In my painting process, always for a number of years in the morning, I'd start out with doing just a little black and white calligraphy, non-character calligraphy, to get the brush hand moving. This is very characteristic of a cedar brush stroke. No other brush will give quite that kind of energy. All of my paintings are based upon a foundation of calligraphic strokes. There are no throwaway strokes at all, not anywhere. Each stroke should have its own energy. The old calligraphers say that you paint the black to reveal the white. And I've noticed after years and years of of trying to understand what calligraphy was about, that many beginners begin far too fast so that they can't really see exactly what the brush is doing. All of the hairs of the brush, exactly what can that brush do if it's laid down or twisted. It's a dance. It's a kinesthetic kind of participation and energy. It's like the full body being down and then lifting and going down. Opening the brush itself. Ideally, with 100% attention, the brush will tell its own story. my first memory as a little boy was an interest in art. On the farm where art was the name of the farmer next door. There was no art in my environment whatsoever, but I couldn't keep my hands off anything that would make a mark. I just knew that I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know what that meant. I'm still trying to find out what it means. This is a brush that my teacher gave me, Lin Chin-shek, whom I met many, many years ago when he first immigrated to Canada. His teacher owned this brush, and it is made from cougar hair. And it's the brush that I used generally for doing the little brush drawings before I started doing larger color work paintings. It's quite different. The action is totally different from the cedar brush. And of course, it has many, many stories stored up in it from Chin-shek's teacher and from Chin-shek himself. And if I can just muster some really good attention, perhaps it will just tell a little visual tale. Where we think of a brush mark as a line, as an outline, you know, the Oriental idea of a brush mark can be form itself. It's very difficult to say very much about Chin-shek, except that he was continual inspiration, I think, to almost everyone who knew him. He was a Taoist adept, master calligrapher, seal carver, ceramicist, poet, sculptor, all of the things that a Chinese artist at his peak should be. He was like an older brother to me. I spoke no Chinese when I first met him, and his English was very rudimentary. And yet, we communicated instantly. And many of his Chinese friends would ask me how possibly we could communicate so closely since I spoke no Chinese and he spoke no English. And I had to point out that our deepest communication was visual, that he knew my language intimately, the language of the brush, and I stood in awe of his language.
and his mastery of it, and learned almost everything that I know about calligraphy from him, even though I'd been doing brush stroke work years and years before I ever met him. He confirmed a great deal of the validity of my own activities. All I can say is that he was an incredible inspiration, and I miss him sorely. Although he isn't gone, he's still very, very present in spirit.
Where do they come from? I wish I knew. They flow when everything is working properly with 100% attention. They flow as nature flows, so that the brush in many ways becomes part of the patterns that all natural things are doing. Often size is irrelevant, and working on a very, very small section, the consciousness takes it as a mural. It could be a giant mural, and a small, very tiny brush can be as large as a whitewash brush, and within that parameter, all of the movements that a brush can make are Brownian movements and curdled fractals. I mean, often there's one makes a triple axle, and there's this wonderful surge of the brush having danced something quite wonderful, but it's on such a small level, and it's so quick that that only a very, very observant person will see the energy of that particular stroke. It's like a fern frond in the wind, sometimes quivering with a vibration that just touches a chord, an inner chord in our natural makeup, and there's an inner resonance with the versioning of that unity, so that one sort of merges with the nature that we're part of, that we're not separate from it all. We are nature, and nature is us. Painting itself is the language, all of the motions of the painting, the ways of handling the brush. You can see I'm a brush junkie. I have many brushes that each of them have a unique, singular voice, and they sing in a way that no other brush sings. So the brushes are in some ways analogous to musical instruments, and one can play on the musical analog, developing a painting as one would develop a musical composition, having perhaps one level of vision as the percussion, or throw a flute line through a field of violins which are interweaving, intermeshing. The sounds very often in my mind are colors and forms, and when I'm totally lost in a painting which is proper, then music is made. There's a musical composition, and it doesn't have to be anything. It's just what it is, and it's really quite useless. And I think that's its great value. We've made almost everything utilitarian. Everything has a use. Certainly, it has a price. But there are some things that are left that are useless and invaluable. I think small, intricate works are rare and important to remind us of the largeness of the small. The circle came to me in an interesting way after I'd given up painting. I thought I'd been lied to by God, and that this whole idea that I could be an artist or that I had any talent was a big shock, and that I was wasting my time. I had no talent whatsoever, and so I started homesteading in the Kootenays, and art became really quite a dirty word in my vocabulary. And after working really hard, physical work, I found that I needed something cool out on and relax, and art was the only thing that I'd been trained to do. Well, the circle started coming to me through these drawings, and then all of a sudden, it was like a cap had blown off an oil well or something. The art necessity just became intolerable. It was it was just inescapable, and I knew that in a sense giving up the whole idea was the way to get at this entire idea of art in a totally different way. And the circle was, looking back on it, I suppose that it was just some sort of an integration, a psychic integration that had totally escaped me previously, because I was holding on too tightly to other things, and having sort of given up in a quite a total way, I thought. Then I was given something very, very surprising. Images, forms, all kinds of ways of doing things began to emerge that were quite surprising, and and renewed my faith in art as far as I had any relation with it. So it came spontaneously, this whole idea of the circle, of using circle as a format. And I really didn't know I was doing mandala. I had no idea actually what I was doing, except the circle was just insistent in what I was doing. And then, of course, I began to, encounter mandala, and became quite serious about investigating what was it about this motif that was so insisting. And on that journey, then I went to northern India and spent some time with some Tibetan painters. He did a lot of reading and a lot of painting, and developed my own respect, I guess, or belief in the authenticity of the therapeutic aspect of mandala on one level, and on another level the spiritual depth of the mandala as it's sort of manifested itself throughout all over the world in a universal sense. It's amazing how many artists have been involved in it in a way that isn't too public, as private exercises. I was sort of horrified when I first saw art in the monasteries and how it was treated in a kind of a sense of neglect, where the art restorer or archivist would just be horrified to see a gorgeous black tonka in front of a butter lamp, just blackening it, and but that's okay. Everything, has its time to age and decay, and because the artists are always there to renew and regenerate, so that it's an ongoing cycle. It isn't as though this is a precious thing that will never happen again. So. And understanding that, then it's all right to look at some beautiful thing, just returning to the elements that it came from.
In a strange way, the mandala is really my discipline, and the calligraphy is my freedom, and they're both part of of the totality that's intrigued me now for a long, long time. There are many aspects of the mandala that have little to do with art as a social commodity or even a social communication. The mandala is very personal. Of course, if it's authentic, it has to be it has to be a diary in a sense. Very autobiographical. I feel very guilty about any mandala that I've sold because certainly, I had to live, I had to eat, and I had to pay the rent, that sort of thing. But still, mandalas should be treated the way they are in Tibet. They should be given, and not signed. It's just part of a social energy exchange.
It's such a relief to be out of one's own skin. In meditation, when one experiences the transpersonal, there is somehow that haunting beauty of being, at last, out of one's meat puppet and finally home again. The metaphor of the dewdrop slipping into the ocean comes to mind whenever I'm totally lost in a painting through 100% attention. I don't exist. I'm just simply not there. I'm not observing the deed at all. Something is happening. There's something burgeoning, and it's wonderful. And there's nothing else that I can do in life. Even when I was kind of young and healthy and tried everything, there was nothing that created the conditions for that feeling. Of relief, of wonderful relief. I wish that in some ways that everyone could experience that every day. Of course we do when we go to sleep, but it's the relief of dying to the consciousness of all of the problems and the suffering and the pressure of the world and the good and bad and the dualities. It's the pressure of dualities, and the release from that is just so wonderful that then one no longer fears going to sleep or dying or losing the meat puppet or feeling quite natural when the spacesuit begins to wear thin. So. Here comes the sun. You can hear the house creak. Can you hear the house creak?